Welcome back to my channel. For those of you that are new here, my name's Kate, and every Friday I bring you something book related. So today I'm going to be doing something new on my channel. It was suggested to me by one of my subscribers, so thank you very much, Lauren, for the suggestion. She suggested that I do a series of vlogs on the Walsh sisters, which are a series of books by Marian, and for anyone that follows my channel you will know that I absolutely love Marian. She's one of my favourite authors. I think she's brilliant and I think she's so underrated, and just because she writes books that are targeted to women doesn't mean they are not absolutely brilliant, and just because books are targeted to women doesn't mean they are any less good than books that are specifically targeted to men or not specifically targeted to any gender or any sex. It just really bugs me. Sorry, thought I'd get that off my chest. That's a rant for another day. So as I said, I'm a massive Marian fan, and I've read all the Walsh sister books loads of times. So the 5 Walsh sisters are a series of characters in a family that Marian has related. Something she does so well is that she creates these characters in her books, and then they pop up in other books as well. So like she's created this boy band called Lads who appear throughout her books, and one of the lads has a fairly big part to play in one of the Walsh sister books as well, and I just really like that. I think it's a really fun thing to do, and like you've already got these characters created, so why not give them a bit more life? So the 5 Walsh sisters are Claire, Margaret, Rachel, Anna and Helen. So Claire's book is the first one that came out, and I believe that it was Marian second book. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure it's right. Now that one's called Watermelon. So the second book that came out, just to be confusing, is not about Margaret, it's about Rachel's holiday. Then the third book that came out was about Margaret, who's the second sister. I hope you're still with me. That book's called Angels. Then the fourth book to come out was Anybody Out There, which is about Anna. Then the 5th book to come out was The Mystery of Mercy Close, which is about Helen. So all 5 sisters have their own books, they all have their own personalities, they all have these different things that happen to them during the books, and it's just, I love all these characters. They kind of become, I feel like they're my friends, or I'm a Walsh sister or something. And then she has written a short story of their mother, Mammy Walsh. I won't attempt to do an Irish accent there. But yeah, Mammy Walsh is a character all of her own. I think she deserves her own proper book, but she has a mini book. She has a short story. But yeah, I think she needs a book of her own. So Marian, if you're watching this, it's time for Mammy Walsh to have her own book. So today I'm doing this a little bit out of order, purely because I cannot find my Watermelon book at the moment. I know it's somewhere, I just can't find it. So I either need to find it or get another one, and then I will do the review on that. But at the moment we're going to do Rachel's Holiday. So that was the second book that came out, and it's probably the most popular, I would say, of Marian books probably, and of the Walsh sister books. And it's definitely a really good one, but I don't know if it's my favourite. I like all of them. I actually really like Anybody Out There and The Mystery of Mercy Close as well, Anna and Helen's stories. I like Margaret and Claire, so Angels and Watermelon, but I just don't read them as often as I read the 3 younger Walsh sister books, which is probably why I can't find my copy of Watermelon. Probably gone walkabout to someone in the family at some point and I just haven't noticed because I haven't read it in a while. But Rachel's Holiday, I probably read once a year or something. I probably read all these books once a year, and it's really interesting for me with these books because I started reading them all probably in my late teens, early 20s, when I was younger than all the characters in their respective books, and now I think I'm older than all of them apart from possibly Helen in her book, which I can't remember how old Helen is. I'm not sure if she's 33 or 34. I might be the same age as her in her book. But yeah, I just find it really interesting, the journey I've gone on reading these books as I've aged. I see them in completely different light. So Rachel, when we meet her, So I'm going to go a little bit off what's on the back of the book because there's quite a lot on there, and then that way I'm not going to give you any spoilers. So she's 20 when we meet her. She's living in New York. She's a miserable owner of size 8 feet, which keep an eye on these shoes for. So this was written and is set in the late 90s. So she's living, kind of imagine a more realistic, less rich, sort of 5-10 years younger version of Sex and the City, and she's kind of living that life. So her and her best friend Bridget are both from Dublin, and they've moved out to New York a few years ago, and they're kind of living the New York high life. And Rachel has a boyfriend, the very sexy Luke Costello. He wears his leather trousers tighter than tight, and she's fond, some might say too fond, of recreational drugs. Rachel definitely likes the party. She likes the party, she likes the drink, she likes the recreational drug. She likes to enjoy herself, does Rachel. Until everything goes a little bit pear-shaped and she finds herself being thrown marched to the Cloisters, back into the bosom of her family in Dublin, and then off to the Cloisters. So the Cloisters is a rehab facility, in case you hadn't guessed. And Rachel goes in there thinking that it's gonna be, but Dublin's answer to the Betty Ford clinic. And when she's outraged that she's even there, because surely A, she's not thin enough to be an addict, B, addicts go around wearing trench coats, C, they have track marks on her arm, and she doesn't have any of these things. So she's absolutely outraged to be at the Cloisters, and she thinks that the only good side of it would be that it's going to be wall-to-wall jacuzzis, gyms, spas. She's going to have mud wraps, she's going to eat fruit all the time, she's going to drink cucumber water, it's going to be amazing. She's going to walk out of there with a six-pack ab, flat stomach, the works. She's going to be glowing inside and out, and she's going to be mingling with celebrities, rock stars, pop stars, falling out of clubs, you name it, comedians. She's going to be mixing with all of those. Unfortunately, the Cloisters isn't quite like that. She's not too impressed when she meets a lot of brown jumper wearing, and I say this in the nicest possible way, because a lot of the men in there are middle-aged, but they're a little bit plump. And, when you have a bit of a fondness for alcohol, you get the broken veins and the red nose, and that also comes with age with men as well, I think. So yeah, there's not too many, rock stars and pop stars and socialites in there for her to mix with. So obviously she's very disappointed. Apart from one. There's one young guy, a few years older than her, who's also in there. He's very good looking, goes by the name of Chris. And she thinks that he will do nicely as a way to help her, adjust to life in the Cloisters. Because things with Luke ended badly when she left New York. And the characters in the Cloisters are an interesting bunch, let's say that. So she's kind of relying on Chris to be the only normal one, and the one to kind of help guide her through it. A bit of a mentor, if you like. Which he actually does do, but, two drug addicts, not such a good mix. I'm going to leave you with that. I'm not going to say any more of that. But yeah, the characters in the Cloisters are very different to who she thought they would be. There's going to be a lot of farmers, a lot of kind of, middle-aged men in there, and they're all very different. So there's people in there for alcohol, for drugs, for overeating, for gambling. And there's a TV in there, and, they show the horse racing on the TV. And, you've got to eat. So it's very interesting. It's definitely not what she expected at all. She's not hanging out with the rock stars and the celebrities, and there's no real jacuzzi or anything as such. So it's not quite the holiday that she envisioned. And then she spends her 2 months in there, so everyone has to spend 2 months in the Cloisters. And the journey she goes on from the Rachel we meet at the beginning, who I would say is kind of a classic middle child, has a real chip on her shoulder, thinks she's not good enough, thinks her sisters are better than her sisters are loved more, she's kind of the neglected one, and is constantly Like, I try and think back to whether I did this at her age, and I don't think so, but she's kind of constantly seeking the approval of others, and it's so frustrating. At the beginning you're just like, oh my god, just have an opinion for yourself. She's so like trying to keep up with what's trendy, trying to impress these New York people, having the right haircut, wearing the right clothes, going to the right restaurants, reading the right books. I mean, my god, if that's what it's like in New York, it must be absolutely bloody exhausting to live there. I don't think I've ever been that type of person, so I don't really get it, but I know that there's a lot of people like that in the world. And then the journey she goes on throughout the book, when she kind of, yes, she very much starts off in denial, and then like slowly she goes on a journey. Slowly she gets there, and the person she is at the end of the book is much nicer, much better person, so much easier to read, and so much more likeable than she is at the beginning of the book. And the characters in the Cloisters that she meets are the type of people that, if she was back in New York, say, and if she was the person that she was in New York, she wouldn't give them the time of day. But because she's stuck in the Cloisters with, you know, women who are married and have a fondness for too much gin, too much vodka, you know, the acid casualties, the tranquilizer casualties, you know, the men who have like real issues with Madonna whore, and the, you know, the ones that have a drink and then hit their wives. But they all turn out, they're not like fundamentally bad people, they're just addicts or alcoholics, which is making them into bad people. And so to begin with, Rachel sat there full of judgment of them, and she's not really going to participate. Like, she'll be there, she'll do her time, you know, have her nice rest, have her holiday, and then she'll get on with things, go back to New York, triumphant, get back together with Luke. Obviously life doesn't quite work that way, but yeah, the journey she goes on is just incredible. She's a much nicer person at the end of the book to her friends, and she stays with her friends, she stands by them, which is lovely, and she has a happy ending, which is nice, and we get to see that ending and her life carried on through in her sister's books. And it's really lovely to see the journey she goes on, and that she, you know, when she's in the Cloisters, although she starts off judging these people and thinking she's above them almost, by the end of it, she's the one who's kind of comforting them after they've had a breakthrough in group therapy, because they have to do a lot of group therapy in this. It's not individual one-to-one, it's all in a group, so everything's out there for everyone to hear. And yeah, it's just great. I love Rachel's Holiday. I'm such a big fan of it. It's such a good book, and it's such a comfort read, and I do know why it's the most popular of Marian Keyes' books and of the Walsh sister books, but some of the others are really good as well, which we will be discovering. So do let me know in the comments if you want me to do these books in order, or you want me to do them separately, because I could just go on to do Anna next, or I could go back and do Margaret because her book came out next, and I will eventually find Watermelon. If I find Watermelon by next week, I will do Watermelon next. So yeah, let me know in the comments if you want me to go back and do Watermelon, or you want me to just carry on and do the next books in the series. And I'll see you then.